Hello, everybody. Brennan Marcel, 24/7 Sports. We continue our series on first-year coaches with Josh Heupel, the University of Tennessee head coach. Coach, I always love talking to coaches who have got that football in their blood from a not necessarily from a standpoint of, well, they play college football, but I mean, since you're born, I mean, you've been
Yeah,
involved with it. Tell me about the days of growing up, and your dad was at Northern State
Northern State,
University,
yeah.
and you were going to practices, eating team meals and everything at the age of 5. How did that what do you remember about those first moments on a football field?
Man, I really, as far as I can remember back, I just football has been a part of what I've done. My dad actually started as a high school coach in that hometown of mine, and I just remember growing up, walking into the field house which was, I mean, just a shed at that time. You know what I mean? And painted concrete and lockers and just hanging out with the guys, being around coaches, sitting in staff meetings. Probably getting into the trouble a little bit when I was a young guy, and being out on the practice field and running around, and giving guys water, and just, I mean, every childhood memory really almost comes back to football in some ways. And there'd be the practice that was going on with the guys that were suited up, and the kids were in the background playing their own game in the back of the end zone as practice was going on. And just as I got older, and those became guys that I was playing basketball with in the winter months, in the rec gym, and became close personal friends, and still great friends today, and guys that still come to games during the course of fall. And it I just think I grew up with football being such a mainstay of a part of my life, that faith, family, and football really were all things that were integrated together, and just a pivotal part of my childhood.
So how involved are your kids? Do they come up on campus a lot?
Yeah, for sure. My kids haven't quite moved to Knoxville yet. They're moving at the end of this month. They had a couple things. Daughter had a dance recital, and son had a couple baseball tournaments that he wanted to finish up with his buddies. But they've been up here 3 or 4 times for extended stays, and shoot, they're on the practice field, and they're running around the facility and acting like they own it, which is just the way it should be. I walked out on the practice field. Our guys were getting ready for a strength workout, and this is probably 10 days ago, and they had told me that my daughter was beating up on the two little kids in the back of the end zone. She can hold her own, and they were just having fun, man. I think the initial news of moving is always tough on kids. I think that's one of the tough things for coaches' kids. At the same time, there's a video of my son when we arrived here in Knoxville, and he ran out and got a chance to see the stadium. His eyes were as big as two basketballs, just excited for it. And their relationships with players are super important too, and they truly feel like they're a part of the team. My daughter, she'll during training camp, she picks a day every year, and she loves to cook. Just has grown up that way, and she'll bake treats for the players, and just wants to be a part of it too. And actually, my daughter's probably the one that watches football games when we get a bye week or something like that. She's the one that sit down and watch it with me, and she'll probably question a couple of my play calls after the ball game too.
So you get on campus, you've had some time now. I think some of the most important moments when you first get on campus and you have those individual meetings with players, and you get to learn something about them, and then you kind of ask them questions of, what do you want? What's right? What's going, wrong here? What were some of the concerns, some of the good things you heard from them, and what they're kind of expecting out of you and your staff?
Yeah, really, really, just like our initial team meeting was really just a conversation that you get a chance to have with them. And there had been some uncertainty here for a while, which I think is really tough. There's a lot of stress that comes with that for the players that are inside of the building, and I think with that uncertainty, they had some time of reflection too, and because I got a chance to talk with them then, and then just through individual meetings as well, and meet with the leadership council too. You just, I think it was really it became really clear that in a rare way for an 18 to 22-year-old, the group wants accountability. They want to be held to a really high standard. They want it to be consistent for everybody inside of the building. And so that's one of the things that we put in place right away. That's, who we are as a coaching staff and what we believe in. And the other thing is just connection. And that's been really hard this year for everybody. We were talking before we even started the show, just, with COVID and the loss and the ability of human interaction and the normal everyday routines. That's something that everybody struggles with across the country, and something I deal with my own two kids at home. But that's certainly got to be a part of who you are as a football program. And, working out with a guy that's not in your position group, getting to know them on a personal level, doing things outside of actual practice that are fun. I think it's important to have fun. And so those are things that we've tried to do right away in different team activities, and also just consistency in the way that we interact and communicate with our players every day. I think it's something that's really important. They see you walking down the hallway, they know exactly who you're going to be and what the interactions are going to be like. And we've been that way as a staff. And I think that's why we're continuing to grow in a really positive way every day.
No offenses year to year are the same, though. People always say, hey, you got your system, your scheme, but you've evolved and you've changed based off personnel. But I guess the one common thread through there is that you could love to go fast. I think you guys ran almost 86 plays a game last season at UCF. But I wanted to focus on when you go into spring practice. As we talk today, you're about to start spring practice, and you've got a quarterback battle like a lot of teams in the SEC have this spring. But what do you expect out of your quarterbacks when you get on the practice field throughout the spring and even in preseason camp with your offense?
Well, I expect them to make a bunch of mistakes and grow from them.
Yeah.
Expect them to make some plays too. I think we were talking about it yesterday as an entire team. Just think about the strides you can make as a football team. If you make a mistake, you learn from it, and you never make the same mistake twice. If you're able to do that, you're able to grow leaps and bounds every single day as a football team, because individuals are growing the right way. And at the end of it, if you're going to compete for championships, you need to have a quarterback that's playing at a championship level. That can look a lot of different ways. It can be a guy with exceptional running skills. It doesn't have to be. It can be a guy that's in the pocket. At the end of the day, it has to be somebody that you trust putting the ball in their hands. No matter what, you got to trust them. And that trust is earned, I think, through a process of the practices on the field, but the way that your work habits show up every single day, your ability to lead and command, the 10 other guys around you, and certainly in some ways your entire football team as they grow into that leadership role too. So we've changed everywhere that we've been offensively. We have some core principles and what we're going to be about, and I think that's important that your kids are able to grab onto and hold on to those things. At the same time, it's about finding a guy that's going to play at a championship level, and then us putting him in a position to be successful. That's true of the quarterback. That's true of the 10 other guys on offense. It's true of everybody who's going to play on defense and special teams as well.
But philosophically, when it just comes to college football and the way we've seen offenses evolve over the years, I was talking to Blake Anderson at Utah State and previously Arkansas State and several other coaches about this, about how offenses have gotten to a point now where if you're an offensive coordinator, it's almost like you're cheating, is what he said, because defenses, all you really got to worry, not all you have to worry about, what you primary responsibility now is just stop them when they get in the red zone, because they're going to get offenses are just going to get yards these days. Do you agree with that? And how difficult does that make it for you as a head coach when you've got to worry about a defense as well? And kind of how's that evolved for defensive coordinators over the years?
I think it's always about three phases of the game playing together to give yourself the best chance to go out and win every Saturday afternoon. And I think it's critical that you understand situational football. You find the best way to play in those situations, to control the clock, to control the game in those pivotal moments. Disagree with it, you're just automatically going to give up yards on the defense side of the football. I think, for us, we talk about being an aggressor, playing with an attacking mentality. I think that's really important. I think a big part of that from the defensive side of the football, as far as how you measure that, is I think you got to create zero and negative plays. You got to get people off schedule. And so that was important to me and who we hired on the defensive side of the football and what we were going to be on that side of the football as well. And you got to be able to blend all those things together.
This is a big question, and I don't know if anybody ever has an answer, but how do you get Tennessee back to what we're accustomed to seeing in the late 90s and early 2000s, where, they're back in the national conversation?
Yeah, I think it starts with who we are individually and what we are collectively inside of our building. I think accountability, discipline are extremely important. I think the way you build a foundation of trust and love is really important inside of your building. If your foundation's not rock solid, then anything you build up on top of it's going to come crashing down. And so, who we are is really, really, really important. There's a lot of different ways to win football games: 3 down, 4 down defensively, single high, two high coverage. Offensively, you can slice it a bunch of different ways and be successful playing 10 personnel, 11 personnel, 12 personnel. It comes down to who you are and how you do things way more than it is about what you do. And so paying attention to those details in everything that we do, our players understanding that we're watching and we're going to hold them accountable, gives us the ability to lay a rock solid foundation. This is one of the premier programs historically in all of college football. The logo is extremely powerful. Top 10 in the country in wins in the history of the game. Top 10 in NFL draft picks. There's so many things to sell right here. There's a 103,000 seat stadium. This state is extremely passionate about Tennessee football 365 days out of the year. That's why I wanted to be here. That's why our staff wants to be here. That's why the guys that we recruit ultimately come here too. We just got to understand that it's about who we are every day. And that's going to give us the foundation to go win games, recruit the biggest and the best, and go compete for championships.
You talk about the Tennessee fans being very, very passionate, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask this question. Any update on linebackers Henry Toto and Quavaris Crouch? A lot of rumors out there.
Yeah, sure. No finalized updates on either of those guys. We'll see where the spring ball leads us and where we end up at the end of the semester.
Have you had conversations with them about potentially staying, and how do you feel, I guess, about that?
Absolutely. You have conversations with all of your players. You're recruiting kids that they're outside of your facility, but you got to get to know them. The most important thing is getting to know the guys that are here inside of your building. What makes them tick? What are their successes? What are their hardships that they've had to overcome? I think that's part of building your foundation here.
But you feel the doors open there? That there's still a possibility that they return?
Yeah, we'll see where the spring goes and where the semester ends.
Okay. Wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask. So your career path, like a lot of coaches, people on the outside always kind of have this idea of where you should be as a coach. Everybody obviously knows you're the Oklahoma quarterback to win a national championship. You came there and became the OC, and people are like, you know what? Josh Heupel is probably going to be the head coach here someday. And of course, things worked out to where Bob Stoops moved on, and it happens in coaching. But here you are now, you're the head coach at Tennessee in the SEC. Did you ever think, even in your lowest moment, after that bowl game against Clemson, where you think, man, maybe I'm not going to be a head coach sooner than later, and here you are now at an SEC program?
Man, don't think I ever thought that way. We got beat by a good Clemson football team. I think they're number one in the country defensively that year. Got a ton of respect for Brent and what he's done throughout his track record. Spent a lot of years in the same staff room with him too. No, I mean, I'm kind of a guy that is always about today and what's next, man. And that's how I live my life to this day. It's how I've kind of always lived it. I think that's the competitive world of college football, man, that if you're thinking about tomorrow or living in the past, you're struggling today, and just kind of who I am.
And my last question, more of a scheme thing that we're working on. We're seeing more and more teams putting their best receiver, no matter the size, in the slot. You did that last year with Marlon Williams with great success. Why do you think things are trending more that way offensively?
We had a lot of good receivers at UCF last year. I mean, we had a great one that went down in the first half in Trey Nixon that had 150 yards in the first 2 quarters, I think. Marlon was a tremendous player, inside and outside, extremely strong and really versatile. I think you're trying to find matchups every single week and give your kids your best the opportunity to find a way to get open and make plays. And Sometimes that means you're outside in isolation. Sometimes that means you're going to move them inside in the slot and try to get a matchup on a safety or a nickel potentially in some coverage variations, and give them the ability to work inside and out. I think the ability of offenses to be multiple and be able to move guys around has become more of a trend.
Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel joining us here on 24/7 Sports. Coach, good luck this spring, and of course, going forward in the summer, and then once we finally get to preseason camp and get into the fall of next season.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on the show.